All right, students. So, in the previous class of economics, we talked about the command words, right? That what are command words? I'll just write it here. What are command words? And I told you that everything revolves around command words. What to write, how much to write, how many points, what length of answer, everything will be decided by looking at the command words which are usually at the start of the question, right? So we have talked about the word identify, sorry, the command words identify, state, and list, then explain, then we talked about analyze as well. Now, the last command word which is still left, and that is actually the most difficult uh, part of the question in economics P2 section B, and that is I am going to write it there. Now the question is, I am writing, it is discuss, um, what to write. Okay, let me phrase the question. The question could be discuss, um, okay, you have, because I want to select a topic which is easier for you to understand, because right now my focus is not to teach you a concept, huh? But as soon as we'll finish this last command word, we'll be straight into the syllabus, right? So I'm just thinking about a simple concept which you can understand. So it could be labor, right? So okay, discuss whether wages increase, discuss whether increase in wages increases productivity, right? This is, let me just drag it somewhere else, because here maybe the length is, is okay. All right, here. Discuss whether increase in wages increases the productivity of workers, increases the productivity of workers. Now, this is a question, right? And I hope that you have studied that, but still, I will explain that concept because you studied that some time ago. But the important thing is now the command word which is there in this question is discuss, right? So discuss is the command word. Now, before we talk about this question, you need to understand whenever you see the command word discuss at the start of the question, usually I'm talking about section B, not section A. The marks given to such questions are 8. So this is actually the highest marks question which can come in section B, right? And it always starts from the command word discuss. So whenever you see that word at the start of the question, you have to attempt that question in a different way. You have to think it in a different way. Now, what do you do? For that, you have to develop arguments in favor of the statement and arguments against it as well, right? That is compulsory to get 8 out of 8. It's written, discuss whether increase in wages increases the productivity of workers. So first of all, you will mention points, at least two, um, to explain that how increase in wages can increase the productivity of workers. Okay, it can be one point only if it is well developed. I told you earlier as well, because development is very important whenever there is a 6 mark question or an 8 mark question. And then you have to mention other points as well which go against that statement, that increase in wages not all the time increases productivity, right? Are you getting my point? I'm saying, first of all, whenever you see a question which starts from the command word discuss, you first write arguments in favor of the statement. Like, yes, wages increases the productivity of workers. Okay, and then you will go into an argument, you will develop your point, how it happens, right? But then you have to give a counter argument as well, like it may not happen, like increase in wages may not increase the productivity of workers, and then you have to give the logic behind it, the reason behind it. So you need to develop this point as well. So overall, you can write at least 3 points, like one in favor or two against it, or two in favor and one against it, right? Now, let me start answering this question. You will get a better idea about this. But before we start answering it, you must understand what is labor productivity. Wages, you understand. I know it's a very simple concept, it's there in business as well. So, what is productivity? Or specifically saying labor productivity or workers' productivity. Can anybody tell me what is uh, productivity or labor productivity? Anyone, any idea? No idea? All right. So I won't waste time. I will simply explain it to you. Remember, it's not same as production. Remember, productivity is not same as production. So productivity, I'm not writing it. Why? Because it's not required. But and I know that I told you that my focus is not to um, teach you a concept. My focus is to tell you what is the technique to attempt past paper questions. All right. But anyhow, I can still write the definition. I'll write productivity is the number of products produced by one worker. This is the productivity. Okay, so it's not same as production, because production means the total output produced in a business or in a factory, right? Whereas productivity means that how much is produced by one single worker. Okay, and actually the formula to find it out, labor, because we're talking about workers, so I will talk about labor productivity, right? So labor productivity is equal to total output, right? And we actually divide it with number of workers, right? So this is how you will be able to revise the previous concepts as well, no? So number of workers, right? So now let's say I'm still explaining that concept. Let's say total output is, like, there is a factory there which manufactures shoes, right? So let's say if 100 shoes are produced, right? 100 shoes are produced, and to produce those, there are, let's say, 20 workers, right? This is actually the scenario in a shoe factory, right? Now, if we need to calculate the labor productivity using the same formula, we can easily do it, right? Now, just putting these values in the formula which is there. So now total output is, in this case, is 100, okay, 100 shoes, and the number of workers are 20. So what do we get? We'll get 20 into 500. So we'll get 5. So I'll write specifically 5 shoes. So now this means each worker is able to produce 5 shoes. Okay, yeah, or out of 20, sorry, out of 100 shoes, okay, each worker is contributing 5 shoes, right? Now this is labor productivity. So do you have any question in in understanding this concept? Any problem?
No,
So,
sir.
all right. So, thank you very much, Abid. All right. So, we can move on. Now, I will straight into the question, right? I will be straight into the statement of the question rather. I'm removing it because now you understand this, and I'm actually recording it as well. So if you need it, I can just share it with you as well later. Now, this is the definition. Now, what we have to do, we have to give an argument first in favor of the statement. Okay, and the statement says that when there is an increase in wage, productivity also increases. So let me write it there. When wage increases, it enhances the ability of the workers to buy more goods and services as they are able to afford it, right? So now what I'm doing, I am writing an argument in favor of the statement, right? So I have mentioned this, but I told you, you have to develop your point well, right? So you have to make connections. I have written that, but still I may not get 2 marks for that. Even if you write 1 point, you can get 3 out of 8 as well. I'm telling you how, depending on how much you develop your point. But remember, development does not mean that you will add too many points in it. Point will remain the same, right? And that is in favor of the statement, and that is workers are able to buy more goods and services. But I will be able to extend it. Let me show you how would I do it. Now, when they'll be able to buy more goods and services, okay, because they are able to afford it. Now, I'm making another connection. It will help them satisfy help them satisfy more of their needs and wants, right? Again, I made a connection. Now I will further make another connection that will keep workers motivated, and they will work to their potential, or they will give their 100%, right? They, or they will work to their THEIR, work to their potential, right? Leading to higher productivity. So now you see your ending point should be the labor productivity, because that is the question, that whether wages increases productivity or not. So whatever we did, that yes, we reached to a conclusion that yes, wages can lead to higher productivity, but in between we actually provided the justification or the logical reasoning why would it happen, and I extended it by making more connections. Let me show you how many connections I actually made. I wrote when wage increases, it enhances the ability of the workers to buy more goods and services as they are able to afford it. This is 1 point, or you can say rather one connection. Let me use another color, this one. Then I actually joined it with another connection, right? This one, it will help them satisfy more of their needs and wants, right? This is another connection. Then I actually wrote that will keep workers motivated, and they will work to their potential, leading to higher productivity. So this is the final connection I made. See, this is what we actually call it. Let me write it there. Series of connections. Okay, we call it series of connections, or there is another word used for it. Let me write it down below here. We can call it series of connections, or we can call it chain of argument. So actually, this is a chain, na? So you keep on developing your point by connecting one point with the other. So the basic point remains the same, but you just extend it. So you have, it means if you want to gain more marks, it's not about points. Remember, it's about how you are able to develop your point. So if examiner is able to see that while explaining or developing one point, there is a series of connections or there is a chain of argument, so you will be getting maximum marks. Okay, so I'm telling you because in this, I just mentioned, okay, I just gave one argument in favor, but actually, I only did not mention one argument. I actually connected it with a chain of arguments. Okay, so the point remains the same. That is, wages increases the labor productivity, but there is a series of connections. So how many marks will I get? You will be surprised. You won't get 2 by 6 here. Sorry, 2 by 8 here. In fact, you will get 3 by 8 here. Why? Because of the series of connections or the chain of arguments you or we made here, right? So this is how you can gain more marks. So you actually wrote one point, but we are able to manage or gain 3 marks out of it. Now if we write another point, now I will now write a point against it rather than in favor. Okay, I'll write it here now because we are going against it. So I will start it with the word however. Okay, this is a good way to start a counter argument. Okay, you have given an argument in favor. Now counter argument means that exactly reverse of it is true. That now I am going to explain wages, increase in wages does not increase the productivity, right? Now, however, if increase in, okay, let me rephrase it. However, increase in wages may not increase labor productivity if the rise in wage is very little, right? Now, I have mentioned this. Now, again, you need to build up a chain of arguments or series of connections, right? So to get maximum marks, because in that way you will only get 1 mark, not more than that. So now I'll write the reason is workers would not be better off. Now, better off means that they will not be in a better position, okay, compared to what they were earlier. Okay, they would not be better off as they are still not able to raise their living standard with, okay, raise their living standard. I think someone's mic is unmuted. Yahya, please mute your mic. Thank you very much. All right. So now uh, they are still not able to raise their living standard with the amount of wage they have, right? So this is again a chain of argument I'm building up. As a result, okay, that's fine. Okay, I think it's okay. Now I have developed a chain of argument here. It might not be of the same length, right? But you see, let me show it to you. However, increase in wages may not increase the labor productivity. This is not an argument. We just started this way that now we are going to give a counter argument. Okay, we are going against the statement. So the argument really starts from there. If rise in wage is very little, this is if the rise, you can say this is one of the argument. If the rise in wage is very little, this is one argument which is there. Let me use a different color. Then I connected it with another argument. The reason is workers would not be better off as they are still not able to raise their living standard with the amount of wage they have, right? So here I intentionally made two connections only, right? You can see that only two connections. Does not matter. Still, it's perfectly fine. So it still you can say that development is good, right? Now, but how many marks you would get by now? You'll be able to get uh, 5 out of 8. Okay, or if you develop it more, this point, if you develop this point more, you'll be able to get even 6 out of 8 as well, right? I can say you can get 6 as well, depending upon, again, I told you how much you develop, okay, or how much lengthy your answer is in terms of series of connections and chain of arguments. It's not about dragging your point, okay? So it must be logical that one sentence must be connected with another sentence. Another sentence must be connected with another sentence. So there must be a connection between all sentences. They must not look apart, right? So let me write 5 here. Okay, 5 out of 8. So still you require one more point to be written. So now one point could be in favor of the statement. It's entirely up to you. Okay, or one. Let me write it here. You can write 1 point in favor. One more point. Okay, one more point in favor or against the statement to get 8 out of 8, right? To get 8 out of 8. Let me, okay. So this is how you attempt this question. Now, remember, for example, if a student um, writes too many points and develops them as well, but student discusses only one side of the picture, and one side of the picture is that wages, increase in wages increases the productivity. Doesn't matter if a student, even if a student writes 3 points or 4 points, still do you know how many marks can we obtain? Only 5. So let me write it there. If one side is discussed, the maximum marks that can be gained are 5 out of 8. Can you imagine? So it means it's not about points. It's about understanding what examiner wants. So we cannot simply write what we know. We need to see what assessment objectives are set by the examiner, which we have to meet. Like, because for every question there are objectives which are set by the examiner. So if a teacher is not telling you what are the objectives, there is a problem, because you will never be able to meet it. Doesn't matter how lengthy your answer is. So you won't be able to get maximum marks. So even if a student writes 4 points, but all 4 points they are one sided, the student will only be able to get 5 marks. Okay, unless and until the student actually writes at least 1 point against the statement of the question as well. All right, so I think I'm done with this part of the question. So now you know that whenever the question starts from the word discuss, this is how you should be attempting the question. Okay, we'll be practicing these questions in for other classes as well. But now I think we need to focus on our syllabus. But any question from your side, you are most welcome. Anyone? No question? All right, fine. So let me unshare it now.